Welcome to this episode of the $1 Million Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of $1 Million Mastermind. I am back with Bill and Judy Edwards of Squatty Potty from is it Ogden, Utah?
St. George, Utah.
St. George, Utah. Why do I have Ogden in my head? But that's a beautiful part of the country, isn't it?
It is. We love it down here. It's
Did you move there, or are you just natives?
We moved here about 30 years ago when it was just a little town of about 12,000. Now it's a town of almost 90,000, I believe.
We're both originally from Utah, but a different part of Utah. And we always loved the southern part because it's kind of like it's really has mild winters, and we just wanted to get out of the snow and the cold.
Had enough of the snow. And so as you guys, let's talk about how the Squatty Potty idea went, and how did you find, or where'd you get the idea of going in Shark Tank, and what kind of difference did that make? What did you expect that experience to do for you, and then what did it do for you?
Well, we were actually approached by one of the producers of Shark Tank. We just had so many doors open. I don't know. She owned a Squatty Potty and loved it and invited us to try out. But it was the very tail end of being able to put all your information in, and we scrambled, and it was just, we didn't quite know what to do and how to put it together, and we didn't actually make it that year. She invited us, but then we didn't make it. So the next year we thought, well, we'd already tried out. I thought once you tried out, once you're out, one strike, you're out. But she called us again towards the end of the tryouts again. And she says, aren't you going to reapply? And we go, oh, well, we didn't know we could. And she says, yeah, but this time I'm going to help you through it. So she really give us a detailed of what the things that they were looking for, and the video that they would want and stuff like that. It really helped walk us through it. And that's when we did make it that year.
For people who are wanting some behind the scenes information, what did they say they were looking for?
Well, they just wanted a good video, a good presentation. And we did find out that one of the producers the year before did not want to have a product on national TV that was about pooping. And when she called, she says, that producer's not there anymore. She says, this time I know you'll get through. So
yeah, well, yeah, that's just one of the things you run into. But now when you went through that process, one good thing about being in that process and some of the other opportunities, the Dr. Oz and other opportunities, doors that open, when you go through, you meet other people, they ask you questions. And that's one of the ways you learn about, oh, I should be thinking about this. I need to get organized on that. I hadn't even thought about this before. And you come through the process, getting educated and improving as you go. How did you find the process of going through the Shark Tank and the Dr. Oz stages? How beneficial was that for you personally in terms of how you thought about your business?
Well, the first time on Dr. Oz, we weren't actually on. He just wanted a stool. He just wanted to talk about the stool and the purpose of the stool. So we didn't have to be on the show. It was just a little segment that they were just showing the proper way to go to the bathroom, and they used the Squatty Potty. But with Shark Tank, boy, you never know what you're going to get there. And the producer warned us. She says, we have no idea how the sharks are going to react. They can be very brutal. I started watching Shark Tank when we decided it was going to be me and my son that were going to be on. And for some reason, Bill
Well, we thought,
escape that.
well, just look at the picture, you know, you can see, you can look at Judy and Bobby and me and, you know, two's company and three's a crowd and I'm definitely the ugliest one. So
That's
I
not
thought it
true.
would be better with just those two.
No, that's not true. I really wanted him beyond, but they felt like it'd be better if just two of us on there. So anyway, that was probably one of the scariest things that I have ever done in my life, because they can be pretty brutal on that national TV. I've seen Mr. Wonderful, gosh, slaughter people. And with a product like ours, it would be easy to make fun of and slaughter.
Yeah.
So I think the only reason they took us serious, because we had come on with $2 million in sales that year so far in the spring. We were expecting 7 million that year, and we had already had 1.5 million the year before. So they started, you know, money talks, and they realized then that this might be a serious product. And so, you know, they were willing to listen. And, you know, then we end up cutting a deal with Lori. So.
And what was that like for you working with Lori?
Lori is just exactly like she's exactly the way she comes over on TV. She's really a very sweet person to work with. She has a lot of marketing experience. I really think, though, the big thing is just the fact that you have an appearance on Shark Tank. We had an audience of 30 million people that we could educate, and Squatty Potty is a product that needs education. If we had gone to the stores and just started trying to sell Squatty Potties in stores, you'd walk by that product and not have a clue what it is.
Yeah.
Prior to Shark Tank, we actually had gotten ourselves into Bed Bath and Beyond. But the problem with that is they were selling, but not great, and they were back in a corner, in a dark corner on the top shelf or the bottom shelf, and you really had to look for them to find them. Lori had a lot of experience with Bed Bath and Beyond, and after we made the deal, then we were all of a sudden out front, you know, right where everybody could see them, and of course the recognition you get from Shark Tank, you just can't buy. You just can't buy that
No,
kind
it's
of
millions and
recognition.
millions of dollars in advertising.
Yeah, but also the Howard Stern.
Oh yeah, that
yeah.
was huge too.
That's,
You know,
that would be millions of dollars.
that was a real huge increase. Shark Tank, after we appeared on Shark Tank, within 24 hours, we had sold over $1 million in stools. They had told us to have about 20,000 units on hand. We blew through those within the first 12 hours after airing. And it took us from November to February to catch up on our orders.
Yeah, I guess you can't just run over to China and pick up another 2,000.
Yeah, well, by then we actually had those molds in Utah.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
so, yeah, so we had two companies producing them or making them, or they were running 24/7 just to keep up.
Wow. Go ahead.
If we'd still been in China, we'd be dead in the water.
What I was wondering about, how did you measure your growth from year to year to year? Or how do you keep up with it? Units sold, sales volume, you know, how did that increase and how do you keep up with that? Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whiteelmwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up.
Well, you know, Larry, we started off just simply because we had no money. We started making them out of wood, and we had a friend that had a cabinet shop, and he had a CNC machine, and he was cutting them out for us, and then we had to, and he was cutting them and painting them, and then we had to assemble them ourselves and ship them all. And we soon found, as Judy mentioned, that wasn't going to work too well. So we did go to China and get one mold built, and actually 2 molds built, one for a 7-inch stool and one for a 9-inch stool, and had those shipped. And thank goodness we did have the foresight to have those those 2 molds moved to Utah as soon as we could. We found a local guy right here in St. George that could build those for us. And actually, by the time you add shipping and everything, we were getting them built cheaper here than we were in China. After Shark Tank, before Shark Tank, we had ordered some more molds, and thank goodness we did, because they didn't get, we had to actually fly that. We had those molds built in China, but we had them flown here. We had to fly them here. It cost us like $25,000 to get, I think, 3 molds shipped to Utah. Air freighted to Utah, but boy, it was worth it, because we were in the middle of Shark Tank, and once we got those here, then we were able to, finally get caught up.
I think early on when we were first had the molds made in China, we made a lot of mistakes, but we also made some very good choices. We had the foresight to see that if you're stuck to a Chinese company, you have to order 3 months ahead. And then what do you know, if you're going to sell or not? We saw that we could be very strapped very easily. And so thank goodness we had those molds shipped over here.
It got, as you go along, it gets way easier, instead of dealing with getting a mold built. For instance, when our very first molds, it took, probably almost a minute and a half to make a Squatty Potty, in a injection molding machine. In working with our injection molders, letting them design the mold, and they knew shortcuts and tricks and what they needed to do to make things work faster. They designed the molds to their machines, and we can do a 7-inch stool now in 40 seconds or less. And in China, that's not so important. But if you're manufacturing in the U.S., boy, every second is money.
And everything's cost.
And so those are the things you learn as you go along. You learn who you can work with, and who's looking out for you, and what works and what doesn't work.
So are you up over what year are you over? How many do you sell in a year now?
Well, we're both retired.
Yeah, we retired 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So we still on the board of directors, but
I bet you are.
What did we peak out at? We peaked out at about.
I think we peaked out around 28 million in sales one year, and that
would be within your first 10 years, right?
Yes. Yeah. That was just one year. That was our top year. Since 2010, we've sold over $200 million worth in Squatty Potties at this point. That's probably around how many units? Probably 4 million units or so, 5 million units.
I'd have to do
We'd have to do the math.
but we did in 2017, I think we sold part of the business, and actually some other the partners that came in they appointed the CEO, and they took over the day-to-day operations of the business. And even though our sales have not grown, they've actually cut back a little bit, but our bottom line has just been terrific. We're actually making more money selling $20 million worth of stools than we ever did at 28 million or whatever. And so and now volume is starting to pick back up a little bit, but they've really streamlined the business. And
so your jobs, how many people did you have in the beginning? It was just you. How many people, when you guys were up to that peak of 28 million, how many people were employed in on your end?
Well, we never did, all we ever done was sales and marketing and the bookkeeping. So we never did any manufacturing. We did do a little fulfillment at the first, but we soon realized that was more than we wanted to handle.
We didn't want to be shippers. So we
tried
let go
it.
of that too.
We tried it and done it. And we spent 2 Christmases without any rest for about 2 months during the Christmas season. And realized that, we needed to get out of that. So without doing any manufacturing ourselves or any fulfillment, we peaked out at about 20 employees. And that has actually gone down a little bit now, but it's much more efficient than it was.
Well, that's the thing they said about, used to say, 30, 40 years ago, they used to say about Heinz ketchup, out of Pittsburgh. The whole Heinz ketchup empire is like one office with a few people ended up in Pittsburgh, but they had like 30 factories around the country. I'm sure they got more now, but just in the United States, 30 factories that they had contracted out to do, in this kind of glass container, these kind of labels, this is the mixture you put in there. And they just let the factories make them and distribute them and all of that. It was just, they ran an office.
We found that out. We found, they know so much more about plastic injection molding, like you say, about what kind of plastics to use, what kind of, how much silica to use, what to blend and how to make these molds so that they're efficient and quick. And so we were fortunate enough to get some really good manufacturers. We have really good, two good manufacturers here in Utah. We still use one in Canada. We do have a set of molds in China that we use, but we don't bring any of those plastic stools here. They all stay overseas. And then we do make our bamboo stools and some of our specialty stools are made in China, but the biggest vast majority of our stools are made right here in the USA.
Larry, there are a lot of companies that even people we know that, are selling a product and they get to that point where they warehouse it, they fulfill it, they have their own company to make it, and they've decided, they want to do it all. And we decided that we didn't want to do it all. So I think that at some point you have to make that decision in your business. And we decided not to do it. We decided we just want to market.
Yeah. And the thing is, even if you are manufacturing everything yourself, then, you're not going to form your own trucking company just to
exactly
ship it around the country, so you're, the thing is, the concept here is, the faster, once you create something, people are looking, I've got this idea. You're going to go through a phase where you are the jack of all trades and you're running around and you're broke and, you have no time and no money and, you're straining, but you're not going to stay that way. If you have something worthwhile, you're going to transition to where you become more and more of a specialist and you're using, specialists more and more. And the great thing about getting big is that you can justify having like the best t-shirt manufacturer of the United States working for you if you're doing t-shirts, or the best, whatever, the best shipping you get, and you can get the best deals, and the people that are real specialists want high volume. That's how they are specialists. And they're looking for people who can put them to work. And so the better you get at offloading these, you have to go through the transition, but the end of the rainbow, if you want to get unlimited big, is you're going to be using specialists and you're going to be the person who is at the center of the nuclear reactor, holding the whole thing together, holding the values, holding the standards, and, the brand identity. You're going to hang on to the reins there, but you're going to offload as much of the other product creation, our manufacturing and fulfillment and marketing as possible. And, so basically you start off a jack of all trades, but the more successful you are, the goal in unlimited growth is becoming a specialist and using other specialists. And that was kind of the process you went through. And, it depends on what kind of product you have, how that process will play out. But that's something to keep in mind for those of y'all that are listening. You don't have to be thinking about it. You're going to have to do all this stuff yourself the rest of your life.
That's exactly right. I mentioned, after Dr. Oz and Howard Stern, our Squatty Potty became a really unique gift, and Christmas time was just crazy. And I remember we were literally up, 18, 20 hours a day, just shipping, just boxing boxes. We hired high school kids, anybody that could almost fog a mirror, and
Actually,
anybody that had a pulse, and I remember that we probably shipped out, I don't know, 10 or 15 packages over that Christmas season, empty. That the boxes went out empty.
they shipped them out empty.
They were all labeled and
We had these kids working, and they were shipping boxes, trying to ship them so fast. They actually shipped out 10 or 15 boxes empty.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
And that's when we got thinking, man, I think this could be, experts could do this a little better than we could do it. And our life, the quality of our life got so much better.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for sharing lots of great information about developing your business, dealing with the bigger volumes, and then moving forward. I want to talk to you next time about the values that you've learned from this and what you tell other, I'm sure you got plenty of people looking to you for advice and counsel, just from your own family, but in your community. I'm sure you're incredibly well known there and around the country. And so people are reaching out, and I just want to take a minute when we come back and get a couple of the highlights that you try and pass along as difference makers for those kind of people. So we're going to be back here in a few minutes, but thank you so much for this part. It's been great.
All right. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementary.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.